Now, in the 1890s, a group of scientists, led by a man named J.J. Thomson, said, what if we could take apart an atom? What if we could split an atom? What if we could come up with a thing that makes atoms? Well, if we could split an atom down to the thing that makes up an atom, well, what if we could split it enough to get down to the basic building block of matter? Well, if we could do that, if we could get down to the thing that makes the things, that makes the things, that makes the things, that makes everything, well, then we could explain why everything is how everything is. So they began splitting an atom. They quickly discovered that an atom can be split into a smaller substance called a quark. Atoms are made up of quarks. But then they discovered you can split a quark. And then they discovered the thing that you can split a quark into, you can split that. And then they discovered that thing that you can split the thing that you can split a thing to make a quark, they can split that. So the quest kind of went whoop, a little bit off track. And to this day, they're saying they agree that they've identified at least 100 subatomic particles. You got your bosons, gluons, nuons, leptons, mesons, endless lists of these unbelievably small things. If you've ever heard the term quantum physics, quanta simply means packets of energy. Because at its core, these atoms and these quarks are simply these bundles of energy. Now, when you get into the subatomic realm, things get very, very strange. They have discovered that a quark can be in one place, can disappear, and appear in another place without traveling the distance in between. They have discovered that a quark is capable of what's called simultaneous duality. They have observed quarks, one quark that is capable of being in two different places at the same time. In 1949, a scientist came up with what's called Bell's theorem, a personal favorite of mine. Bell's theorem was essentially this discovery. You can take a quark, an atom, and split it in half, and put one half in New York, and you can put the other half in San Francisco. If you take the quark in New York, and you reverse the spin of its electrons, at that exact moment, the half in San Francisco, its electrons will reverse their spin as well. If you've heard of the butterfly effect, that's essentially a popularizing of Bell's theorem. In New York State, in 1997, they discovered an exotic meson, and we all know how exotic mesons can be. This meson appeared for a trillionth of a second, and then it was gone. They don't really know where it came from, and they don't really know where it went. And so you have these unbelievably brilliant subatomic quantum particle physicists saying things like, I don't know. They have discovered a subatomic particle called a lepton. And the general consensus is that leptons do exist as individual subatomic particles. The only hitch is they've only been able to observe leptons in communities of 2 and 3. And so they say, yes, we understand that this is a single lepton. The problem is we only find them existing in groups of 2 and 3 oneness. And so the Newtonian understanding of cause and effect has simply taken a beating with quantum physics, because you take a picture of an atom, you take a picture of the same atom a second later, they don't know what it's going to do. Well, the assumption was always there's an element of predictability at the very bedrock, foundational part of the universe, but the problem is quantum physicists are just saying, well, when you get right down to the smallest thing that makes a thing that makes a thing that makes a thing, essentially the universe at its core is unpredictable. The best we can come up with is that the universe at its core is some sort of relationship of energy. So you have brilliant, studied, respected research scientists saying, all we can come up with as the universe at its core is made up of some sort of relational energy that we simply can't control. Some of them are even starting to use words like personality. And that this energy that holds everything together, that brought everything into existence and somehow sustains or holds everything in existence, gives life to everything, and simply has a mind of its own. We cannot conquer it or put it in a box. It is simply above and beyond what we can comprehend. High-end particle quantum subatomic physicists are starting to sound a lot like ancient Near Eastern Jewish poets. Now, for years there's been a disparity because you have those trying to explain the weirdness of the bigness of the universe, my technical scientific language, the weirdness of the bigness, and then you have others at the quantum level talking about the weirdness of the smallness. But these two ways of explaining why things get so strange when they go big and why things are so inexplainable when they go small have essentially been two different ways. And so there's been a search for years for what's called a unified theory. Is there some way to explain why the universe, whether you go incredibly far out or incredibly far in, is just strange and unpredictable, and it bends and light does all sorts of things? Is there some way to explain it all? And a group has come along who have said, well, the way to explain it is that the ultimate building block of reality is actually small strings. These are called string theorists, and they've presented to the world essentially what's called string theory. So you immediately say, well, wait, what do you mean by small? They're essentially saying the universe is to the earth as the earth is to an atom. The universe is bigger than the earth in the same way the earth is bigger than an atom, in the same way an atom is bigger than one of these strings. Yeah. And they're saying, well, the real issue isn't the bigness and the outness or the smallness and the inness. The real issue is multiple dimensions of reality. Now, to get our minds around dimensions, this is a rectangle and this is a circle. Now, this circle will never be a rectangle and this rectangle will never be a circle. This board that I'm writing on is a two-dimensional surface. It has height and it has width. And so in two dimensions, this rectangle will never be a circle. This circle will never be a rectangle. If you ask me which is which, it's either or. It's either a circle or a rectangle. Now let's move from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions. Let's add a dimension. This marker from the side is a rectangle. And yet, if you look at it from the end, it's a circle. So in 2 dimensions, it's either a rectangle or a circle. You add a dimension, and all of a sudden, what was either or mutually exclusive becomes both and. If the question was, well, is it a rectangle or a circle in 3 dimensions? Yep. How much blood has been spilled and oxygen wasted arguing over whether it's this or this, when maybe sometimes the answer is yep? Think about religion alone. Faith or science? Yep. Okay. Predestination or free will. And the one side has a list of Bible verses, kung fu, and the other side has their list of Bible verses, and maybe the good God who made everything is like, look, I gave you the marker trick. Yep. And you have the circle group, which is like, come on, man, join the circles. Universal loving embrace, come on. And you have the rectangles. Wait, we have right angles. We are 4 times more right than you are. But you But you're dangerously close to becoming a square. Yes, what we need are more straight lines, not all this, what we need are straight lines. But dude, you can't smoke a rectangle. Maybe sometimes the good God who made everything just says, yep. Now, in the 1800s, a British headmaster named Edwin Abbott proposed a land of people who were trapped in 2 dimensions. What if there was a land of people who did not have 3 dimensions as you and I have, and they were trapped in 2 dimensions? He called this land Flatland. What could we learn as enlightened 3Ders if we were to spend time observing those trapped in 2 dimensions? How? If you lived in 2 dimensions, would you experience something that had 3 dimensions? What if you were trapped in Flatland and all you had was height and width? And what if you encountered a 3-dimensional object? What if my ring passed through your 2-dimensional world? What if a 3-dimensional ring passed through this flat 2-dimensional world? If this ring was able to pass through this marker board, how would they see it? Imagine when it first touched, it would be a point. Then as it continued to go through, the point would turn into a line, and then it would turn into 2 lines, and then when the ring was halfway through, it would appear as 2 different lines, and then if it kept going, the lines would come back together, point, and then it would be gone, correct? Because you talk about this all the time with your friends. You're out of the restaurant. You know, I was thinking the other day, napkin, ring, I don't know. Now, how would these 2 process what they just experienced? How would the 2 of them, if that happened? Did you see that? A little weird, wasn't it? What was that? I don't know. Well, what did you see? Well, I saw a point, and it turned into a line. Then it turned into 2 lines, and then the lines got farther and farther apart. Then they came back together, 1 line, point, and then it was gone. I know. I think it was something more. Well, what do you mean? I think it might have been a ring. What do you mean? It almost has, to me, a certain Monty Python. A ring? I do say. A ring? Yeah, I think that the point, line, point, I think that was actually something more. Well, have you ever seen a ring? No. Ever seen a picture of a ring? No. Ever held a ring? No. Never been to Ringville? No, you haven't. So, no, you know what all it was? Point, line. That's all you need to know. Line, point, gone. That's all it was. I don't know. I just, do you have any evidence? No. Do you have any proof? No. Any photos? No. Anything in a lab you can test? No. So this person ends up having to use words like, I don't know, I just sense, feel, trust, believe, have faith. And so the experience of the ring actually reveals 2 vastly divergent worldviews. The one person immediately shifts into Flatland is all we have. It's all we can prove. It's all we know. It's all we can document. And so it's all we have the empirical evidence for. The one person essentially becomes what's called reductionistic. All it was point, line, point, gone. And they can argue very persuasively because this person can't come up with any tangible evidence. And so their worldview is essentially, it's all it is, there's nothing more, don't be all weird. And this person is left in the awkward position of maybe being definitively convinced that that was a ring, and yet all they can do is talk about nudges and hints and senses and feelings and beliefs, and maybe even have to use words like faith. Now, what if me, Rob, in all of my 3D-ness, what if I decided to mess with them, and I came and just kept my hand like right here? And what if the one said, you feeling anything weird? No. I don't know, man. I think Rob is near. I just feel the overwhelming presence of Rob. And the one could be saying, what are you talking? I could have my hand this close, and the one would be saying, what are you talking about? You're out of your mind. You're talking nonsense. You have to give up all that superstitious mythic stuff. And the other one was saying, no, I think Rob is very close. Or what if I really wanted to mess with them and I just jammed my hand right through their world? Well, my fingers are of different length and of different thickness. So my fingers would appear at slightly different times, and they would produce circles, and those circles would be of slightly different circumferences and diameters. So the one could say, did you see that? Yeah. I think all those 5 circles, I think they're all related. What? They came at different times? They're different sizes? No, I think it was the hand of Ra. And once again, the person with the reductionist viewpoint is they came at different times, they're of different sizes. You have to give up this mythic, superstitious nonsense. All you have is a couple rings, circles that don't have any relation to each other. And the other one sounds like they've completely lost their mind, but in fact, they are dead on right. See, their experiences of three-dimensional objects would expose vastly different worldviews, and the one who sounded crazy would actually be dead right, and the one who sounded extremely rational, calculating, and weighed all the evidence would be missing a whole new reality right here within this one. Now, in Flatland, you also run a risk because there are boundaries in Flatland. There are those who say this is simply how it is. There is no other world. There is no higher law. There is no greater purpose. We have Flatland. That's all we have. And there would be others who would keep insisting there's more, there's beyond, there's something else. And you would have great conflict. The story of human history is the story of enlightened souls again and again who simply insisted this isn't all there is.